it's Sarah, the founder of Live Like Rue Foundation. So good to see you guys. Check out my new Live Like Rue jersey. For those of you that don't know this logo, it is one that our friend Andy made. If you look at it, this is an L. This is part of an ROO, and it looks like an ice cream cone, which is our first logo. It's like a soccer jersey. I love it. So, by the way, does anybody get chills when you hear the countdown? It's like I hear that countdown now, and I'm like, oh, something like we're gonna tell a story, and it's gonna be good, and something good's gonna happen. So, I love the countdown. So I'm going to bring in Anna, Zach, and Jackson. And Jackson was just smiling. I just want everybody to know that he had a huge smile on his face before we started. And I know it's very hard to control your dog, especially when we have a 30-second countdown and my 20-second is where I made some unnecessary reference to my shirt. But welcome, you guys. It's so nice to meet you.
So great. Thanks for having us.
Yeah. So Deborah, who I think, Zach, you've been talking to Deborah, sent your app. And I kind of wanted you to tell the story of Jackson. And I know, Zach, for you, he's kind of been your lifeline, to be honest.
Yeah. It's funny how things pan out. But I was at a time in my life that I was really finding that I might have been predisposed to some issues emotionally, and he just kind of sauntered in thanks to Anna. A coworker needed somebody to dog sit, and you want to give some background on that whole scenario?
It was my coworker at the time, and he was moving to a new place and asked me to dog sit. It was only supposed to be 2 weeks, and then it ended up being 2 months. And this guy who I was seeing at work every day just didn't really ask about his dog, Jackson. And so finally, after like another month, Zach and I were like, okay, we have to ask him if we can keep the dog, because like now we're in love with him and we can't stand to give him back. And so I had asked him the next day if we could have him, and he said no. So I came back home to Zach and Jackson, who was still at our house, and we were heartbroken. And then the next day after that, he came up to me and came to the conclusion, I guess, overnight that we would give him a much better home than he was able to. So that's how we ended up with him, and he's had kind of a bit of a troubled past, but he is now very happy and pampered, to say the least.
Yeah, so I mean, I just kind of found myself really at a low point in my life, just kind of connecting with him, and he kind of helped me kind of gather my footing after that kind of period. And eventually became registered as my emotional support dog, which he wears that badge with pride, I suppose. And I think I might have said in my application that like he kind of gave me kind of a second lease on life. And so now that this has come to the surface, it's just kind of this like obligation to him, obviously,
repayment,
because he's given me such a change in direction in my life. It's been a whole, I mean, I'm trying to not get too emotional because it's been a very, very wild turn of events, roller coaster, I would say.
Yeah, so we kind of, I mean, obviously you guys watching know, if we're here, unfortunately Jackson does have lymphoma, and as we all know, lymphoma it's tough. It's a tough diagnosis. It's beatable, but it's really, really tough on a dog, and you need to do a lot to try to get rid of it. So Zach, your exact words, you wanted to return the favor, which I loved that. I loved that you said that you wanted to give him that everything that he's given you. I'm going to start to cry. just a beautiful way to put it. And I think too, for you to see the dude that helped you get through all that not feeling well is probably so hard.
Oh yeah.
We were pretty devastated. It actually happened right before Christmas this last year. And so because our families are both kind of far away, we usually just keep it small during Christmas and holiday time. And getting the news right before, just, all our roommates left town, and it was just the three of us, and we were just grappling with this information that we were given, doing some crazy Google searches, as I'm sure most people do. And yeah, we were really just lucky to have a supportive family and friends, and during that time, and just kind of got through it and found some a route to somewhat of a solution. And I think started in January for his treatments.
One of the worst, and no offense, but one of the worst things that you can do is Google, because it puts your mind in places you don't want to go. We do have a fantastic support group. If you guys are not in there, we'd love to add you. Again, the first thing we say is we're not vets in there, but it's people who have been through the same thing. And I sat on the side of a road crying when I found out Rue had cancer. What's wrong with me today? Just because I felt like I was on an island. And I think that's what happens is you feel so isolated, and there's so many people going through the same thing. So I also saw, Zach, in your application, unfortunately you lost your job in 2022. So having a sick animal and then not having any funds coming in from that is extremely hard, I would imagine.
Yeah, it was the strangest financial year. I was just bouncing around and just kind of thinking about how to just kind of float. And then this was by far, we try to live pretty well within our means, but when you get the invoice, the kind of estimate, that was by far the largest bill I've ever had come up just anywhere. You can try your whole life to try to have emergency funds or rainy day funds, but something like that, I definitely was dizzy. I look at that Christmas, it's like I was dizzy and kind of having panic attacks.
Yeah,
just feeling like I was going to faint. The vet would just tell us what was happening, or the specialist, when we finally got in, there's no, that she was talking about how family and friends kind of gave us like a kind of a way to ease into a game plan to kind of go at this thing, because it's a double-edged sword. You get the diagnosis, and your immediate thought is to get them in and get them started as fast as possible, which then it's this bill you weren't anticipating immediately in effect. It was just, it all came out at once. It was a very, very weird year for me, to go back to the question where you're just, you don't have the security of a steady job. And then there's a financial side to this, unfortunately. As big of a burden as it is emotionally, there's a huge financial side to it.
Right. And I think too, at least around here, I don't know if it is with you guys, but you can't get an appointment tomorrow or next week or 2 weeks. You have to wait a month. And when it's a lymphoma diagnosis, you're in trouble. We've had people drive 8 hours to get an appointment in another state where it's not as crowded and not as populated. And that's like the sad part of it, is sometimes even if you have all the money in the world, you can't get in anywhere. It's so hard on your emotions.
Yeah. And we already have been short vets here in Portland. And during the pandemic, everyone got animals for their companionship, and it's just been kind of a mess. So we definitely were on a waiting list for a bit, and we got just really lucky with this clinic that we went to. They were just amazing and got us in as soon as they could. Yeah, it was really lucky.
Yeah. So tell us where he is now. I know you guys have spent a ton of money, but tell us where he is diagnosis and prognosis wise.
So we did the CHOP treatment, which is kind of the typical chemo for lymphoma. And we went to OREV specialty vet clinic. And so the last 6 months, he's been getting treatments. And I want to say about halfway through, they told us that he was definitely in remission. And so that was such a huge relief to hear. And he was handling the treatments pretty well. I mean, of course, there's some tummy issues and stuff here and there because it is a pretty intense treatment for him and for most animals. But yeah, we have completed the full CHOP treatment and he's still in remission. I think his last one was at the end of June. And then this past Monday, we went in for our first checkup after a month. And his blood work came back great. And his lymph nodes are still the size that they should be. They haven't grown at all. So they are really happy with how he's doing, and so are we, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, that word remission is just you love to hear that.
We were talking to how Google isn't always the best help, because if you Google the situation and then you look at the bill, for me it was like we were talking like I am going to do everything I possibly can if we're able to for him, but I know some people don't have some of the privileges of being a couple who have a shared dog that they can go at together as a team. She had some flexibility in work to get him to his appointments every week. Mm-hmm. If working class people don't always have that, these are all things that factored into saying yes, we're gonna do all we can. But if someone Googles those statistics and then look at the numbers, it's just this heartbreaking thing of like, I don't know. It was one of the hardest things. And he's in remission and I'm overjoyed with that. But there's this kind of what if that kind
always
of sticks. It's a residual thing. You have to live in the present and just enjoy time with it now. But I mean, he is so full of life right now and bounced back to the old energy levels. And in that moment when he is low and stuff, you just don't like to think of how many times it might have gone the other way or something, just because the information that people see by just Googling and just kind of running their own scenarios, it's just really, I don't know. It's interesting to look back on and be like, of course it was worth it, but definitely the information wasn't necessarily giving a snapshot of that. And it can all change in an instant. But I 100% am glad to have, given him at least this window of energy back, this window of like life back.
Wow, I couldn't have said it better. You guys are making me cry. Live like Jackson. Hey, Jackson, you awake, bud? I saw you yawning. I knew you were going to take a little nap. Hi, buddy.
Yeah, he just ate dinner, so he's a little sleepy.
Nap time. I get it.
Yeah.
So I know you guys think that we're here to raise funds. We are here to raise funds. So please, everybody, donate. But what we're going to do is I'm going to give you $4,000, but only if we can raise $4,000. So you're going to get your $8,000 that you've spent back.
Oh my God. That's so nice. We so appreciate this. I mean, when you emailed us, we literally were just like, well, I guess we're going to have to do this on our own because we didn't hear back from anyone. And so we were just overjoyed.
Again, it was like that week I just Googled, I was like, what is even possible? And this foundation and some other foundations showed up where it's like, well, that could happen.
Mm-hmm.
Why not apply? Why not see? So, I mean, those kind of opportunities really do in people's lives in that moment offer a very, very bright light.
Yeah.
Of like, other people are doing or gone through this, and other people have kind of a compassionate heart for these types of things. So thanks to, you all for just existing and being able to be found in that moment.
I know that we're going to raise the matched 4,000. So I'll get you guys the $4,000 soon. And then we'll get this video out and get everybody meeting Jackson very soon. But we love you guys. You're Team Rue now. You're stuck with us. Jackson, you're
Yay, thank you. Thank you. Thank
awesome,
you so
guys.
much.
Congratulations. Yeah, you're so welcome.